Hey movie fans, Nuan here. Hey movie slinger. Oh hey man, did you watch any new movies? Just the other day I went with my girlfriend to watch Antman and the Wasp. So how was that? It was great, man. Michael Pena was there. I remember him. He was in the first movie too. He man the three wombats. They were the best part in the film. He was sublime, bro. Oh my god. But hang on. How was the movie? Oh, you want to know how the movie was? Focus. Now go. Well, let's get to it. So I got my tank and I got Anthony. So I think we're all set. So this is the review for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp is directed by Peyton Reed, who also did the first Ant-Man movie. The sequel takes place 2 years after the events of Civil War, where Scott Lang got arrested for helping Captain America and breaking the Sokovia Accords. He is now under house arrest and he has to wear an ankle monitor until his term is up, or else he goes back to prison. Hank Pym and his daughter Hope Van Dyne had to make a run for it because the authorities see them as Ant-Man's accomplices. They're angry at Scott because he stole the Ant-Man suit and got caught helping Captain America, essentially ruining their reputations in the process. So when the movie starts, Pym and Hope are not on good terms with Scott, so there's a bit of a conflict between them as well, in addition to the main villain. While Scott is stuck at home, Pym and Hope have been secretly developing a quantum tunneling device to travel to the quantum realm to save Pym's wife Janet, who's been trapped there for 30 years. Scott was briefly trapped there in the first movie, and we see that even though he doesn't remember, he has actually met Janet and their minds are somehow connected now. So when he starts having dreams, he contacts Pym, who realizes they need his connection to Janet to lock in on her quantum coordinates to find her. All this quantum tech is hidden inside Pym's lab, which can turn into a neat little suitcase. That was really cool. So the villain is this girl called Ghost, who has the ability to phase in and out through solid objects. She's the result of a quantum experiment gone wrong, and she's very unstable because she can't keep the molecules of her body together without causing a lot of pain. So she's trying to steal Pym's lab to try and fix herself, which might involve killing Janet. I don't really understand the science. Even Scott Lang says the scientists are putting quantum in front of every word to make it sound cool. But the thing is, you don't need to understand the science to enjoy this movie. All you need to know is Pym's suitcase lab is what everyone is after. This perfectly sets up Pym, Hope, and Scott's motivations in direct conflict with Ghost. There's also the FBI hovering over Scott, waiting to arrest him if he leaves his house. And right off the bat, what I noticed was how this movie really drives home the point that choices matter because they will have consequences. One of the best scenes in the movie is when Scott abandons Pym and Hope to stay in the FBI's good books. It's selfish, he feels terrible about it, and really pisses off Pym and Hope, who get in trouble because Scott didn't help them out. But he does it to get back to his daughter, so you can't really blame him. It feels like a Spider-Man movie at times because although Scott is a superhero, he still has to deal with everyday real-world responsibilities. The consequences of his actions feel grounded and relatable. If he gets caught leaving the house, the world is not going to end, but he won't be able to see his daughter again. If he doesn't help Pym, they won't be able to save Janet. Let's talk about the cast. Paul Rudd is really good as Scott Lang, the modern Ant-Man. He's very good at physical comedy. What I mean is that he can make the audience laugh simply by his body language and his facial expressions without ever saying a word. Evangeline Lilly finally gets to put on the Wasp suit and kick some ass. She's a better fighter than Scott, and you can really see that in the action sequences. They have great on-screen chemistry together. And speaking of chemistry, Scott Lang and Hank Pym have some hilarious interactions together. We know Paul Rudd is funny, but Michael Douglas? He could have easily mailed it in, but he doesn't. He also gives a very heartfelt, emotional performance, both him and Evangeline Lilly, and the movie works because it's centered around their search for Janet. The supporting cast is great too. The young actress Abby Fortson, who plays Scott Lang's daughter, is really good in her scenes with Paul Rudd. Randall Park, who played Kim Jong-un in the interview, he's the FBI agent keeping track of Scott. He was a good comedic presence. I like how he's an antagonist for Scott, but he's really a nice guy just doing his job. Walter Goggins and his thugs are also there. They're trying to steal Pym's lab. So they show up to complicate things for our heroes. They were really good too. And then we have Lawrence Fishburne as Bill Foster, Pym's old colleague at S.H.I.E.L.D. The two had a falling out and now hate each other's guts. But Pym has to go to him for help, which creates an interesting dynamic. And of course we have Michael Pena as Luis. What can I say? This character is comedy gold. Him and his friends the Wombats. One of the best scenes in the movie is when Walter Goggins and his thugs are interrogating the Wombats and Luis starts telling a story. The director understood what people liked about the first film and brought this storytelling mechanic back, but thankfully he doesn't overuse it. It's done once to great effect and doesn't overstay its welcome. Of course, it's escalated to a whole new level of funny because Luis is now under the influence of drugs in this scene, so he is more hyper than usual. Hannah John Kamen plays Ghost, another disposable Marvel villain we can forget about. I like her backstory and how it connects to Hank Pym's past, how his ego hurt people and that's coming back to haunt him. She's also connected to Bill Foster, who sympathizes with her and is sort of a mentor for her. But she's one note throughout the movie and doesn't have any personality. I understand that because of what she's going through, she has to be serious. But because the film is mostly lighthearted with some emotional moments peppered throughout, the villain being so serious all the time makes her a little out of phase with the tone of the movie. Pardon my pun. I'm not saying she should be making jokes, but the other antagonists like the FBI and Walter Goggins react to funny situations in hilarious ways. She doesn't react at all and kinda sticks out like a sore thumb. Let's talk about the special effects. 2D is good enough for 99% of movies, but this movie has to be watched in 3D. Trust me, it's worth it. The visual effects in the shrinking sequences are jaw-dropping, and there's plenty of depth to the scenes which makes the movie look good in 3D. The action is easy to follow, which is quite an achievement with the characters constantly shrinking and growing and phasing in and out. The car chases are the standout action sequences, and the filmmakers play a lot with the scale of objects in really cool ways. The ants and other insects don't play as big of a role as last time, which is a bit disappointing, but they're really funny when they are on screen. Especially the ant they programmed to wear Scott's ankle monitor to keep the FBI off his tracks. So, in conclusion, I like the story and how it sets up all these different conflicts between the characters. I also like how the characters can't escape their past actions. The cast is fantastic, even the smaller supporting characters. This is one of the funniest movies in the MCU, right alongside Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy and the first Ant-Man movie. They do a great job balancing the humor and the emotional moments. The visual effects and action sequences are excellent. The only minor complaint is the villain's lack of personality, but the movie works regardless of that. The stakes are easy to understand, and although it doesn't get half as epic as Infinity War, the movie manages to maintain a good level of tension throughout. So if you're a superhero movie fan, definitely go watch this. Even if you're not, I'm pretty sure you'll find this enjoyable. I recommend watching this in 3D. I like how the director Peyton Reed has kept the events of this movie contained within itself, and only at the very end in the mid-credits scene do we get a hint of what's happening in the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you check out my Avengers Infinity War spoiler discussion video, I talk about how the quantum technology in Antman and the Wasp could provide the key to resolving some of the challenges in the next Avengers film. I'll link that in the description, so definitely check that out. So what do you think about Ant-Man and the Wasp? Did you like it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Movie Slinger out.